Hey friends! I have a bunch of tiny things I want to share with you. Hey everyone! As I've mentioned a couple times before, some of my friends, namely Kaylee Cross Stitch and Stitchinati on Instagram, have been getting me into the world of tiny stitching. So I want to show some of my progress to you all. This is actually progress over a couple of months. I saved some of it to kind of share all at one time. Though, for the purposes of tiny stitching, I'm also including some pieces that are on 40 count fabric over two. Uh, we're calling that good enough. But let's start with this really cool project. So this project, I designed this pattern months ago. I actually forget exactly when. And designed is also not the right word. I've been kind of thinking of it as I composed this pattern because most of these motifs I did not actually design. What I did is I found motifs from a couple different sources and I put them together all here. So these shisa or these fu lions, shisa is the Okinawan name, so that's what my people use. These are from a pattern by Dance Needle on Etsy. That's a Chinese designer. And I especially liked using this because my people of Okinawa have had positive relationships with uh, the land of China for centuries. Like lots of trade agreements and like lots of history there. If you're curious, I highly recommend you check out the YouTube channel by Rob Kajiwara. He does a lot of great stuff about the history of our people. And Shisa in Okinawa, they're considered like the guardians of Okinawa, and you can find like similar things in other Asian cultures. Like these are not definitely unique to us, but in Okinawa specifically, what their mouths are doing is really important. So if you see one with its mouth closed, it's keeping in the good spirits, and if they have their mouth open, they are chasing away the bad spirits. I actually, right up here, I have my ceramic ones that these are Okinawan, so you can kind of see like kind of this tan color is pretty common. Other Okinawan motifs, like they tend like lots of swirls is something. This is kind of faint, but you can see like these three comma shapes here on the balls they are holding. So yeah, these are what kind of make the Okinawan ones, Okinawan. And you'll see slightly different versions in other Asian cultures. But since they're so ubiquitous, I wanted them to be on this. And then the flowers and these leaves here, I took these motifs from some of these Japanese cross stitch books I have. Honestly, I forget which one has which motif, but I'm pretty sure it's one of these. So this is Kawaii Nippon Cross Stitch, and this is just one of the Appleman's books. I really love having these as motif source books. I bought these from Pomodoro on Etsy. I'll try and find the shop and link that below. And then the last motif on here is this little hermit crab. And this one's special because I actually designed this little hermit crab myself. One of the creation myths of my people is that we came from hermit crabs. So I wanted to add this. And this is actually based on a piece of Bengata artwork that I have hanging. But it's over there high on the wall. And I don't feel like getting it down. So you don't get to see it today. Sorry. I will try to share it sometime in the future. And all of these motifs are kind of composed to be reminiscent of Bengata, which is one of my personal favorite traditional arts from Okinawa. It is a resist dye technique, so it's very similar and probably heavily inspired by some of the batik from Southeast Asia. There was, again, hundreds of years of trade relations. Okinawa being an island nation, it's like pretty strategically located, so it was a trading power for centuries. And of course, that's the reason why different militaries are now fighting over it. Mainly the U.S. military has a bunch of bases there. It's kind of an issue. But anyway, let's talk of happier things today. So this looks like Bengata with all of these little waves, different motifs, and then in the center here, this says Chibariyo, which in Uchinaguchi, the native language of the mainland of Okinawa, where my ancestors came from, this means like good luck or do your best. If you watch anime, it is the Okinawan version of ganbare or ganbate. But let's talk a little bit about this alphabet here. So this is in hiragana. I got this alphabet from Stitchinova. In my opinion, Stitchinova has the best both hiragana and katakana cross stitch samplers. I will, of course, try and link those below. But let's talk about the alphabets in Japanese. We are using Japanese alphabets because Uchinaguchi, the native language of my people, doesn't actually have a written form. So because it has a lot of the same phonemes, they now use the written alphabets of Japanese. And of course, Okinawa is now part of the country of Japan. Again, big history lesson. There are many resources out there to educate yourself on that if you are interested. But let's talk a little bit about linguistics. Japanese has a couple different alphabets. It has hiragana, katakana, and kanji. You might be overwhelmed by why are there three written systems for one language? And yeah, I feel ya. Kanji is like the fancy ones. That was the first one, actually, and it was inspired by Chinese writing systems and then adapted for Japanese. So that some of the characters are similar, but of course it is now a distinct writing system. While there might be some similarities between individual characters, it is its own written system now. There are, though, like thousands of kanji, and each kanji has like a meaning. So it's not a one-to-one with the sounds. There's a meaning inherent. So that's why there are thousands, and it is overwhelming. It's overwhelming for native Japanese speakers. And kind of like how we study for the SAT and you have to like study all the fancy words, like Japanese students will study kanji. And and it's kind of a big deal, like in their newspapers, like, oh, how much kanji do they put in? Because like not everybody knows all of the kanji because there are thousands of them. But it is like one of the ways you can kind of prove how educated you are. Okay, so that's kanji. Now what we're doing here. Now we have two different alphabet systems, hiragana and katakana, which are both phonetic. So each symbol means a specific sound. Hiragana is how you write native Japanese words, and katakana is used for foreign words, which is incredibly xenophobic. Of course, I don't know all cultures in the world, but at least of what I have been exposed to, Japanese culture is one of the most xenophobic cultures I'm aware of. I, of course, have quite complex feelings about Japanese culture because they are the oppressors of my people. But in some ways, I have certainly embraced certain elements of Japanese culture, and I, claim that as my own. Because of certainly growing up, sometimes Japanese culture was much more accessible to me than traditional Okinawan culture. Thankfully, with the advent of the internet and so many things being put on YouTube, it's much easier for me to access traditional Okinawan culture now, but that is very recent. So the last couple of years have been a lot of like kind of self-discovery for me and being actually able to learn about the culture where my people come from, which has been really cool. So why am I talking about all of this? So I have written this in hiragana. Which that is a statement saying like this is a native word. People from mainland Japan would write uchinaguchi in katakana, showing that it is a foreign word. So this is like the act of itself of me choosing hiragana is a little bit political. Though the kind of the weird thing is even though like most mainland Japanese speakers would put words in uchinaguchi in katakana, there's still the idea by a lot of Japanese linguists that uchinaguchi or Okinawan is just a dialect of Japanese, which is curious considering there are like at least 6, if not more, languages native to the Ryukyu archipelago. So my people are from Okinawa, but that is part of the Ryukyu archipelago, which has like over 160 islands. Like it is a lot. Okinawa it happens to be the largest one. And if you talk to any linguist outside of Japan, everyone agrees that uchinaguchi and these other at least 6 different things are complete languages. So it is curious how many modern Japanese people would say that uchinaguchi is just a dialect of Japanese, but still they would write the words in katakana and label them as foreign. So we kind of get the short end of the stick on both things. But yes, language is an interesting thing and frequently political. For any of you who did not happen to take any linguistics, I still just have this very clear memory of listening to my linguistics professor in college. And she was asking us, like, what's the difference between a language and a dialect? And of course, we were confused undergrads. We had no idea. And eventually she was like, frequently politics. And that's just like still definitely made an impact on me. But yes, I was definitely very intentional about my choices when I chose to design and stitch this. But we can talk about just the rest of it. So this is just DMC colors here. I had so much fun choosing the right colors to really get that pop that I wanted. Again, this is based on Bengata, and one of the common fabric colors in Bengata is blue. This is a little bit darker than what you generally find, but again, it's just, you're never going to find the perfect color. I would have to do like a huge amount of searching, possibly try and dye it myself, and this fabric's nice. It's also sparkly. When in doubt, make it sparkle, and it's still a nice one. And then on the back, you can see I made it double-sided. Here is this mini Shimanchu rabbit created by my friend Aya. This pattern I just love so much because I designed the large Shimanchu rabbit, which I highly recommend you go check out if you haven't already. And then based on that, Aya created this mini version, which I've been stitching a lot. So you might see this is like this nice fully encased, like double-sided thing. So what I did is I stitched it back to back. So when I was stitching it, the rabbit was actually upside down. And then I folded it in half and stitched it all the way around. Inside is a piece of chipboard that I cut to size like just a tiny bit smaller so it would fit in. And then a piece of cotton batting on the front and back so that it's a little bit squishy and the stitches have a little bit of, space to kind of sink into. If you're curious, like I actually literally finished this like maybe an hour ago. There are some pictures on my Instagram, and I include a few process pics if you're curious and want to try doing something like this yourself. I'm pretty happy, and I judged the margins pretty well, so there's not like extra space, but it still holds it nicely. It was just like, I love this pattern. It's just like kind of an odd shape, and like, how am I going to frame that? And it's tiny. You don't want to like buy a custom frame for something so small. So I'm really happy with this. The one thing I might do is I might like add a little hanger on the top. But other than that, this one is all done. I have a couple other finishes. Ooh, let's start with this one. So I believe I showed you my tiny little sea bunny nudibranchs last time. So I finally finished this one in a tiny pendant. So this is just one sea bunny nudibranch and then 2023 in the back, because 2023 is the year of the water rabbit. So I thought this was a cute way to kind of represent that. Of course, I did not come up with this cute idea. I saw someone else was drawing sea bunny nudibranchs for the year of the water rabbit in one of the ecology Facebook groups I am a part of. So inspired by that, I made this pattern. This one was, I love the backs of these things. This pendant blanket is from Art Base. Their products are just so beautiful. Like, these are the most beautiful pendant finishes I have ever seen. This one was a little bit tricky. This is by far the smallest one I finished. So like, the smaller it gets, the less you have on your seam allowance. So like, it was a little tricky getting it all in there, but did a pretty good job. I didn't even get like anything at the top. So I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Like, this one was sitting there for a couple months unfinished. Like, I had the pendant and everything. I was just scared because I didn't want to mess it up, because you just have so little margin for error on these tiny ones. And then I have these two keychain finishes. So these are from a different vendor. These are from 3 Inches Hand Embroidery. These ones are fun. Like, they're kind of thick, but like, they're completely enclosed on the back. And then they're just a nice little keychain finish. They have a couple different stains you can get. So I don't remember which stain this is, but I matched the lighter wood to kind of match the lighter fabric. And you'll see another mini Shimanchu rabbit. I have stitched so many of these. And then this one is a Daruma I stitched a couple months ago. Here I did the black one to kind of pick out the black in here. So I was really happy with these. And then you'll see I have so many different Shimanchu rabbits that I've stitched recently. So here's a yellow on black. Here's kind of this like teal, I think this is 32 count, teal on this 28 count tea-dyed fabric. I love this color combination. And then this one is like pretty much everybody's favorite who I've showed these to is this purple on light purple. And again, sparkly, because who doesn't love sparkles? And then this is just the offcut of the fabric that I used for this. And because I was like, oh, this rabbit's actually a good size, I stitched two more. This one is that really dark purple. Oh no. It's very dark grape. And it's a low number. It's either a 100 or a 300 color for DMC. So 3 inches hand embroidered with has a couple different color stains, and one of them is purple heart, and have this frame that's the purple heart stain that I've just like had sitting around, and I haven't like had a thing that works with it. So I tried to figure out which DMC purple coordinated the best, and I think this one works. So hopefully I'll have that one framed as well. And then I had more space. So I was like, obviously I need to stitch another one. And I wanted to try a lighter color because like this looks nice, but like it's still like intense versus intense. So I was like, okay, let's try a different type of contrast. And then I realized I had like 2 bobbins of this pink. It's like 3716. I don't know. You can look on my Instagram. I save all the information there. And like it certainly gets the nice contrast across. I don't know. I'm just like this is not a me color combination. Though Shazita of Ancient Sage Stitchery, when I was kind of mourning the fact that it wasn't my favorite on Instagram, she said she liked it. So thank you, Shazita. That made me feel better. So yeah, hopefully I will get these framed soon. So you might be asking me, like, why? Why have I done this? Why have I stitched so many mini Shimanchu rabbits lately? And that is because I need to make goodbye presents for a couple of my colleagues. I recently transitioned to a new age group in teaching this past year. And this past year I had a 1-year position at my current school. And like it has been a whirlwind, but there are a couple of colleagues who've been especially kind to me and have helped me with a couple of things. So a lot of these are kind of for goodbye and thank you presents. So these will probably get gifted this week. One of my classes I co-taught. This is for my co-teacher. Daruma, again, are kind of Japanese symbols of striving to be better. So, ooh, here's my real one. I probably said this before, but when you get a daruma, both of the eyes are not filled in. And then you fill in the first one when you set a goal for yourself. And then you fill in the second one when you achieve that goal. So this one is a particularly special one for me. But it's hard to do that when you have a piece of art, like, or a cross stitch, because like once this is finished, it's really hard to go back and stitch that other eye. And actually fairly frequently in art, you will see daruma with one eye filled in, kind of as a symbol of you should always be striving for something, always striving to be better. And I know that this sentiment will resonate with my co-teacher. And of course, this is stitched on 32 count metallic copper linen, one of my favorite fabrics. It's just like such a rich color, and of course, sparkly. Who doesn't love sparkle? It is kind of my mantra here. And then hopefully I'll have some of these other rabbits finished up soon. Another one I'm especially proud of is this one. So here, I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera because it's tiny and the contrast is really low. But I took some motifs from a tea pattern from Lago d'Argento shop. They're on Etsy. I'll link them below. But they had just like a lovely tiny little pattern. And this, the colors are chosen based on the Latin teacher's tea wear that he brings to school. I have been shadowing his advisory all year, and he has just been exceedingly kind. And after spring break, we have been doing tea every week during advisory. So this is his tea set. I'm considering like I might write thank you in Latin somewhere around here before I actually frame it, because he is the Latin teacher. Because again, I have just learned so much from him this year, and he has been exceedingly kind. And spicy, which is great. I appreciate everything about him. So I had a especially fun time making this. Oh, this one has a fun story of when I stitched it too. Unfortunately, the woodshop teacher at my school had a family emergency and was out for an entire week. So I ended up covering advanced woodshop for an entire week, which was it was actually the easy one to cover because there were two students and they know what they're doing. There were a couple rules, like because there wasn't someone who actually knew how to use the woodshop, I don't have those skills. They were only allowed to use hand tools, but they were both fine with that. They knew the rules. One of them is working on making a 3-drawer dresser. So he was like hand shaping handles most of the time. And the other one is making this bench with the really like complicated joinery that has to be like just perfect. So he spent a lot of time chiseling things. But while I was spending the week with them, I was actually stitching this. And then I had to, of course, be very careful when I was talking with my friend, the Latin teacher, because of course he's curious about what I was doing, but I couldn't share that I was stitching because then he would ask what. So yeah, that was fun, and I'm really excited to give this to him soon because the end of the year approaches. We have 1 week of classes left, though it's kind of a special schedule. Normally we have this like crazy rotating schedule, which I kind of hate. And this week we have like each class meets once for a longer period. So we kind of like it's a presentation day. And then Friday, every period meets back to back to back to back to back for 15 minutes just to say goodbye. Yeah, it's a time. Anyway, I've been having a lot of fun stitching all of these kind of goodbye and thank you presents to all of my coworkers. As I alluded to last time, I have a new job at a new school that I'm super excited about, but it does mean I need to move. Less excited about that. Yeah, but it does mean I get to move back to the greatest city in the world, in my opinion, of course. But have fun fighting about what you think that means in the comments. But yeah, it's certainly a lot to transition to a different age group in teaching. And of course, just like being at a new school is always a lot because different schools do things slightly differently. And even you're just like learning where your classroom is and like the best time to refill your tea. So I'm not like super looking forward to having to relearn all of that again. But there are many other things that I'm super excited about my new job. I just need to find a place to live now. Anyway, all of the things that are stressing me out. Let's talk stitching. So here's another piece I did. This is my family crest and a little rabbit. Again, this was inspired because it's the year of the rabbit. This one, I'm pretty sure it's another motif from one of these books. I don't know. I forget which one. Oh, obviously the Daruma I took from this book. You can tell because it's on the cover. Highly recommend these. The patterns are so cute. And it's a great way to get, Japanese patterns from Japanese designers. So this was kind of fun. I'll probably do another little pendant finish. Though when I was stitching this, I'm like, it's nice, but like it's a big block of stitching and I want, the sparkly fabric to shine through a little bit more. Ooh, I think this is 32 count Lavender Field from Extrude Design, one of my favorite fabric dyers. I don't know, I love everything she does. I feel like I'm a walking ad for Extrude Design. I feel like I have less on her fabric, like here's more of the same piece of fabric. I feel like I normally have way more stuff on her fabric. Oh, yes. This one was 28 count full bloom from Extrude Design. More coming. So I guess I wanted to just like show off the fabric a little bit more. So I made another version where there's some like negative space taken out. I just haven't had the time to like sit down and actually stitch that because I'm finishing my school year and I'm trying to find a new place to live so I can move. I hate searching for apartments virtually when I don't live in that city yet, but I need a place to live. Anyway, it would be so great to just like live in the same spot for more than a year. Stitching! So here is another 1/1 I did. This is Koi by BOLDxCRAFTY. I think like they used to be on Etsy. I feel like they've disappeared. I have not been able to find this designer again, so I'm very glad I bought this pattern when I did. This is a mystery piece of fabric that was gifted to me by Nati. Again, sparkly, but oh, it just like it's the perfect modeling. It really does look like a pond, so I'm really glad I chose this one. And I did recently buy another frame from 3 Inches Hand Embroidery that, nope, nope, never mind. The frame I bought is for a different piece. False alarm. Um, Eventually, I'll find a frame for this and it will be gorgeous because isn't it just so charming? Um, I've always loved koi. They are just so exquisitely beautiful, and this pattern did a great job of showcasing them. And sparkles, because who doesn't love sparkles? Another thing I did recently was because I charted my family crest. I actually reached out to one of my aunties and was like, "Hey, auntie, do you want one of these?" So she chose this color combination. She wanted red and white. So this is 32 count ruby wine Lugana, and I chose winter white, so 3865. And I think it looks really nice, though. Because I find the lighter DMC colors, they don't have as much coverage, so it's like looks a little more Xy, which I'm not super a fan of that. So my next version, I would hope to do on a tighter count fabric, so it's not quite as obvious the stitches. I also messed this one up a little bit. So there's supposed to be an extra row in the top. And so then when I went to the bottom and I added that row as I charted it in the pattern I made, I was like, this isn't right. Why does this not match up? And then I realized that the mistake was like all the way up here. So I modified the bottom to fit because like at that point you just have to match what you've already stitched. Um, but so yeah, this is why I'm telling you here on Flosstube where my aunt is not watching and I did not put this onto Instagram because she does watch my Instagram. I love you, Auntie. But yes, you are getting one with an error. Yeah, I have another frame for this, so hopefully this one will get framed soon as well, and then I will have it off to my lovely auntie. Now the next two pieces make me giggle a little bit. So I stitched some sharks. These are a couple months old, so here's a nice hammerhead shark. This is one motif. Oh, I should have looked this up. This is a beautiful underwater sampler by Star Parade. Yes, the entire pattern is gorgeous, but I just chose this hammerhead shark. The story here is kind of hilarious. So I am a part of this Facebook group called Wild Green Memes for Ecological Fiends. And it's a place where people who like ecology and evolutionary biology, and it's mostly just memes, like a lot of wildlife memes. But every year they have a fundraiser, and the goal is to raise money to help the environment. And how we do this fundraiser is they form different teams, or as we call them, gangs. And each gang kind of embarks in a meme war, and you try to have your gang raise more money than the other gangs. There are many wonderful names. The gangs each year change a little bit. The one I tend to be a part of is at least 74 shark researchers, hence the sharks. What happened here is someone from another gang, Girl Boss Raptor Chapter, yes, Girl Boss Raptor Chapter, embroidered a meme of like a velociraptor like painting their nails and was like, look, no other gangs are embroidering their memes. So me and a couple other people were like, hold my floss. And we actually all either cross stitched or embroidered things relating to the other gangs. So here is my hammerhead shark contribution. You might ask, like, why am I swimming with the sharks when I'm obviously a primate person? Well, there is no group that like real primates fit in. So I, I swim with the shark researchers because they like reputable science. It was adorable and like a teeny bit sad that the winning gang this year was the Wild Green Unqualified team. There are many people in this group who don't know that much about the outside world, which is fine. Like, hey, memes are an excellent way to learn, actually. I mean, you do need to check there's your sources, but like they're a great way to learn snippets of information, or sometimes not everything, but like they can be a great gateway because they can help things stick in your mind and motivate you in a way you might not get elsewhere. But yes, Wild Green unqualified team swept us out of the water this year and won. But yes, this was my hammerhead shark contribution. When I shared this in the Facebook group during the memoir, I actually like looked up peer-reviewed papers on hammerhead sharks to share with this because I'm a nerd like that. And then the other shark I stitched was this whale shark. This is by Bug Gal Designs. So this is actually more. Oh, I forgot. I should tell you what this fabric is. This is another extra design fabric. This is Deep Impact, 40 count opalescent. What's interesting is it actually is very similar color to this thing where I stitched my Chibariyo, but these are actually different fabrics. Like this is just solid color. Oof. This is either Witchelt or Zweickart. I forget. It's just one of the brands. I wish I remembered the color blue that this was, but I have no idea. But this one has some very nice modeling. Unfortunately, I was dumb and I didn't really stitch the shark on top of the modeling. So I'm a little afraid that when I frame this, you aren't actually going to see that the fabric is modeled at all. So that's a little sad. I feel like I'm still figuring out how to best use modeled fabric because occasionally I've done the placement of my stitching really well, and sometimes I just like miss it horribly. So you learn new things everywhere. Well, let's talk about this beautiful whale shark. So this is 1/1 on 32 count again. Opalescent. This one I specifically stitched on white because then all of the white spots on the whale shark, I just left that out. As charted, you use white floss. But I didn't feel like doing that. I love playing with negative space. That's one of my favorite things about cross stitch. So I specifically wanted to do this. I had to like restitch my initials several times, but I eventually kind of put them up here so they look like they're bubbles coming out of this whale shark's mouth. The year is hid right here on its tail. So this was I had a great time stitching this one, mostly when I was hanging out with my good friend Kelly. And then I even have this beautiful frame that eventually I will frame this. Um, I'm so excited that I have this. Look at how big the frame is relative to the size. That's a little bit ridiculous. This is from Mini Frame Factory on Etsy. Super big fan of this shop because you can get like smaller frames that are gorgeous for not that much money. And they put in sawtooth hangers for you if you ask nicely when you buy them. Unfortunately, I do need to find someone who can hem this for me before I can lace it because I don't want it to come unraveled. So this has been sitting here in need of hemming. Hopefully that will happen soon. So yeah, that is what I have been doing lately. So much tiny stitching. Oh, I have one more thing to show you. This project. I have so many feelings about this project. I was so excited when I found this pattern. So I've only stitched a tiny bit, but this is actually a Year of the Rabbit pattern, a Chinese version by a Chinese designer, which I found on Etsy. I did rechart and I modified it a little bit because it like wasn't quite even, but it's like that gorgeous kind of like looks like a Chinese paper cut. Here, like it was charted in 3 colors, so there's 2 reds and then kind of that kind of gold color that's the rabbit. I am going to stitch it on this fabric and the rabbit will be negative space. It's just I haven't enjoyed stitching this project. You can see like I've not picked this up in months. I should have I ran out of pillowcases to store my scroll frames in, and there's like kind of dust in this here. I like when I'm stitching, I'm very intentional about my thread path. And that's mostly just a personal challenge, but I was like, okay, I have to stitch it this way. But then how I was stitching it, it necessitated having like a million ends. But yeah, it does. You can see it creates this really neat back, which I find helpful because what's going to happen in this pattern is there is this darker red that kind of has this geometric pattern, and there's a lighter red which will kind of fill in, and then the rabbit will be in negative space. But because the rabbit is in negative space, I have to really carefully watch the pattern to make sure I'm putting all of the colors in the right places. And yeah, you can tell I have feelings. And I was so excited about this pattern because like it's this beautiful Chinese design by a Chinese designer. I don't know. This pattern and me, we're not getting along. And also like it was a super cheap pattern, but it wasn't compatible with Pattern Keeper, so I had to rechart it myself. And so anyway, I will put that pattern down below, and you should definitely support designers from other cultures if you want to stitch other cultures. But I do wish everything was exactly how I wanted it and Pattern Keeper compatible. I'm ridiculous. Like I pretty much only stitch patterns using Pattern Keeper. So if it's hard copy or not Pattern Keeper compatible, I will rechart it. Which is totally ridiculous. But hey, that's my process. If I find that's what works for me. Obviously, I do like to be really creative in my fabric choices and what colors I'm using. But I apparently like to do all of that decisions before I start stitching. And then when I'm stitching, I literally just want to follow directions. This color goes here. Great. But yeah, learning more things about what type of patterns I like to stitch. Hopefully I will get back to this one soon because like this is a gigantic piece of the same metallic copper linen that I have done all of my daruma on. Oh, and bunch of my maneki nekos. So what I find I do is I try to like stitch on it first and then I cut it to size because I think I lose less to my fabric margins that way. But that means like I have this gigantic piece of fabric that's like locked up in this project until I finish it. And also like all of the reds like are pulled for this project. And it would be better if I could just finish this, put this back in my stash, because this is what, 817 or something is this beautiful dark red. It's one of the reds that Anna uses a lot in her patterns. I also changed the reds from this original pattern, and I was like, yeah, let's use the red that Anna uses because she has good taste. Yeah, so hopefully I'll get to this one. But yeah, I'm honestly not sure how much stitching is going to happen in the next month or so because I need to move. I need to find an apartment and pack up all of my worldly belongings and move to my new place. Um, I'm I'm trying to move earlier in the summer because I would prefer to have more time to settle in my new place. But yeah, moving is stressful and not my favorite thing to do. And I have moved 3 times in the past 3 years. Would not recommend. Not my favorite thing to do. But of course, just trying to find my next landing pad. And my next job is a permanent position, which I'm really excited about. But yes, many things happening here in Laura Land. And if you're curious, of course, I'm still making creme brulee. This one I made earlier today, so hopefully, I made it this afternoon and it's now pretty late at night. Ooh, yes, okay, it has had enough time to set. Oh yeah, I did a good job. This one is infused with Yunnan black gold tea from, unsurprisingly, Yunnan province. Bought it from Tea Runners, one of my favorite tea retailers. They just describe everything super well in words, so I feel a little bit more confident buying from them online. But this is amazing. I made a vegan version a couple weeks ago because I have one of my vegan coworker and I really wanted to share it with him. It was good. The first the first vegan creme brulee I made was like terrible. And then I switched to a new recipe and the second version was much better. I'm still just not sure I would call it creme brulee. It was just like really good coconut pudding. Just, custards are different and it's hard to get a custard without eggs, and cream. It's kind of what they are. Anyway, I hope you are having a lovely time. And, remember, go stitch and watch people who have different backgrounds than you. Crafting is a great way to express yourself, but also learn about other people, and that's how we enrich ourselves. So, of course, make sure you go watch Dee. I really enjoy watching them because they have different things that where they're coming from. I've also been heavily inspired by Abby Bella Stitch. She's the one who started Stitch Asia. Like she's been one of my big inspirations, and without her, I might not be as outspoken as I am. Another person I love to watch, of course, is Auntie Nitya of Daybreak Stitchery. I'm always so impressed by just how much research she does. She is also a teacher, but I'm like, how do you have the energy to do all that? I'm just, a little bit younger in my career than her. So I'm still kind of figuring things out, especially since I am new at my school. But, anyways, I'm always impressed when people can put in that energy to research because honestly, I don't have as much energy when I get home. Right now, I am mostly stitching the things I know, but I'm hoping someday soon I'll have a little bit more energy so I'm able to do a little bit more learning and appreciate other cultures as well. Have a great night and happy creme brulee.